The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Robert Tan. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares were mixed on Thursday after Wall Street's big recent rally lost some momentum following a pair of potentially discouraging reports on the American economy. One report showed that the activity contracted for U.S. retailers, finance companies, and other businesses in the services industries last month when economists were expecting to see growth. A second report from payroll firm ADP suggesting that U.S. employers outside of the government hired far fewer workers last month than economists expected. Japan's Nikkei 225 slipped by 0.44%, while the Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong edged up 0.45%. South Korea's Kospi led regional gains with a more than 1% rise. The Shanghai Composite and Australia's ASX were both flat with a downward bias. In Singapore, the Straits Times Index is also flat, but with a slight uptick. And in the currency markets, the US dollar rose 0.23% against the Japanese yen. It was flat with a downward bias against the Hong Kong dollar and the Thai baht. The greenback gained nearly 0.1% versus the Singapore dollar, but fell 0.30% against the South Korean won. It meanwhile remained flat against the Australian dollar. Key commodities and crypto markets posted mixed results. Gold slipped by 0.29%. In the oil market, West Texas Intermediate crude dropped 0.33%. Brent crude edged down 0.14%, while Dubai crude saw a steeper decline of more than 1%. And in cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin declined 0.19%, while Ethereum rose 0.26%. The Transportation Department reports major progress in resolving right-of-way issues, with 3 out of 5 key subway roadblocks cleared in just 3 months. Speaking with the Bilyonaryo News Channel's Business 360, Transportation Chief Vince Dizon says amendments to the right-of-way law recently passed on second reading at the House of Representatives are expected to fast-track expropriations critical to infrastructure projects. The Common Station and MRT-7, 2 long-delayed projects, are now on track for completion by 2027, promising seamless rail connectivity across Metro Manila and nearby provinces.
And the amendments are really going to be game changers in our work to get right away as fast as we can. And hopefully it's going to pass on third reading next week before Congress goes on sine die adjournment, and it can be signed into law very soon.
Okay.
On the Dalian trains from China, the transport chief said a 2019 study found them safe to run with proper mitigation, but final clearance must come from current maintenance provider Sumitomo. He has given Sumitomo a deadline to issue a report, noting that 48 trains could potentially replace the aging MRT-3 fleet.
I personally trust Sumitomo. I mean, they're one of the best in the world at doing this. And we all know the safety record of Japanese railways.
Yeah.
So we have to trust them, and they will meticulously go through their processes and make sure that these trains, if usable, will be used safely.
The new Manila International Airport in Bulacan is set to replace the overburdened Ninoy Aquino International Airport and alleviate heavy traffic in Pasay, Parañaque, Taguig, and Makati.
Yeah, that's why it's called the new Manila International Airport, because that's really what it was envisioned to be. It was meant to replace NAIA. Because
Transportation Chief Vince Dizon said to BNC's Business 360, discussions are focused on the phasing of operations to ensure a seamless transition between NAIA and the Bulacan Airport. San Miguel Corporation is operating NAIA under a 15-year concession. It will manage the new airport. The goal is to run NAIA while the Bulacan Airport is being built. The Department of Transportation, or DOTr, shows the new design of the footbridge that will replace the so-called Mount Kamuning or NAIA South Road Scout Borromeo footbridge. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon tells Bilyonaryo News Channel's Business 360 that the new footbridge will be lower than the MRT3 station and will be PWD and senior citizen friendly. The new footbridge will have elevators on both sides and at the center, and it will be relocated.
The problem in that area are really the wires of the MRT. Right? If you're going to build the footbridge in that area specifically, you have to avoid the wires of the MRT. And obviously, you cannot build in between the wires and the train. That's impossible. So you've got to build above the wires. The problem is, it's too high.
Yeah.
So and the span of EDSA is too narrow.
Dizon says building an underpass on EDSA to replace the controversial footbridge will be extremely difficult due to the current state of the utilities and drainage underneath Metro Manila. The footbridge was given the moniker Mount Kamuning due to its height.
And it's going to cause a lot of disruption on the roads where you build the underpass. Plus, it's going to be quite expensive.
Okay.
I absolutely agree that, as we see in other more developed countries, underpasses are really the way to go because they're the most convenient. They don't disrupt anything. They're not an eyesore. It's really the way to go. But unfortunately, it's going to take too long, and we have to build something relatively quick because the president really wants to tear this. I was going to say mountain, but tear this structure down because it's a symbol of bad infrastructure.
Correct.
The Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, put Tacloban under price freeze. This is to prevent and ease the impact of the San Juanico Bridge repair following the declaration of a state of emergency. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon, meanwhile, gives an assurance that port improvements are being done to provide alternative routes to cargo trucks that cannot pass the San Juanico Bridge.
A lot of the ports now in region 5, 6, 7, 8 are all congested because of this one choke point. And what we did was, there are two ports close to each other between Samar and NAIA. This is Tacloban Port and a port in Basay, Samar, which is called the Amendayan Port. So we are right now, we finished just yesterday the improvements to the Amendayan Port so that we can move RoRo vessels and carry trucks across the San Juanico Strait from Samar to NAIA. That will help alleviate the congestion a bit.
Yeah.
But it's still not going to be the same because obviously these big boats can only take 20, 25 trucks at a time. And now we have roughly about 5 boats ready, and they're going to start plying that route by the weekend. And I'm going to personally go back there on Sunday to oversee that and to make sure everything goes smoothly.
Yeah. Okay.
Information and Communications Technology Secretary Roel Aguda blasted Meta, the parent firm of Facebook, for not proactively geo-blocking fake news and scam posts in the country. Aguda calls on Meta to set up an office in the Philippines for enforcing global content standards. Aguda also directed concerned government agencies to issue clear guidelines that will help telcos disable SIMs used in scams. Aguda was among the department secretaries reappointed by President Marcos in the recent cabinet reorganization. Benedict Coyiuto is now president and COO of Oriental Petroleum, taking over from his father, Bilyonaryo Robert Coyiuto Jr., who now serves as vice chairman of the oil and gas firm. The announcement came at the company's June 4 stockholders meeting. The younger Coyiuto has sat on the board since 2013. He is also the head of PGA Cars, the distributor of Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini, and Bentley in the Philippines. Toyota Motors reports solid earnings as it introduces new growth drivers. Our mobility correspondent, G. Baroga, has that story.
Toyota Motor Philippines of the Bilyonaryo T family is off to a roaring start this 2025, raking in over 6 billion pesos in consolidated net income for the first quarter, a 57% jump from last year. The boost came from a 12% rise in retail sales, with over 55,500 vehicles rolling out of dealerships. And guess who's helping drive the momentum? The much-anticipated return of the Tamaraw. Relaunched in December, the iconic nameplate is proving to be more than just a nostalgia trip. It's a key growth driver for Toyota. President Masando Hashimoto even called it a worthy contender to Mitsubishi's L300.
We are increasing newly this product and volume. Mitsubishi also staying very strong. So these two are driving the whole customers, and then total truck segment, truck customer segment is also increasing. So our product is incremental, and our level is almost head to head.
Alongside the Tamaraw, local favorites like the Philippine-made Vios and the Hilux pickup are keeping sales solid. Imported heavy hitters like the Land Cruiser, Hi-Ace and Alphard are also adding to the numbers. Toyota is also shifting gears toward a greener future. Staying true to its multi-pathway approach, the company ramps up its electrification efforts in support of the country's decarbonization goals. That green push is showing results. Its luxury sibling Lexus is also cruising ahead in the premium lane, grabbing the top spot in Q1 thanks to a hybrid-heavy lineup.
95% of our vehicles are all hybrid vehicles. So it's the demand of the market requiring hybrid vehicles for fuel efficiency and of course exemption from number coding. So I guess people with before having budgets for two vehicles can now be combined into one.
Together, Toyota and Lexus posted a 37% year-on-year jump in electrified vehicle sales, moving nearly 4,000 units in just 3 months.
This growth trend is keep going and continuing in the future as well. So Toyota is bringing more products to the country, and we want to make the carbon neutrality options, more options to the customer. That's our Toyota's promise.
But even market leaders feel the seasonal slowdowns. April saw a bit of a breather with sales dipping across the board. Toyota sold just over 16,000 units, an 8% drop from March. Lexus says it's a sign of a more cautious market as more players enter the field and buyers take their time.
There are more vehicles or more brands out there that people can choose from, different price ranges, different sizes. Also, I think the market is more conservative this time because there was a lot of high sales coming from 2024.
Still, Toyota's dominance remains undisputed. With nearly 72,000 units sold from January to April, the brand holds a massive 48% market share. One reason for that edge is a dealer network that spans the country.
We have currently 75 3S showrooms in the network, which is the biggest across the brands. Even in any province or region, people can have the access to the dealers and get the repair.
Despite the April dip, both Toyota and Lexus are staying optimistic, projecting 7 to 8% growth for the Philippine auto industry this year. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
President Bongbong Marcos orders the Department of Trade and Industry to keep school supply prices in check. In response, the DTI issued its price guide for 2025. More than half of the 195 items listed did not increase prices, while 29 items are even cheaper compared to last year. Malacanang urges parents to check the DTI website for the full price list. It aims to provide more affordable options for consumers as students prepare for the upcoming school year. We're taking a short break. The biggest business stories from around the country are up next. You're watching Business Brief. The country records its lowest inflation rate in over 5 years. Our reporter Sujin Kim has the details. Go ahead, Sujin.
Robert, Philippine inflation slowed further to 1.3% in May, the lowest recorded level since November 2019. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority shows that the headline inflation rate eased from 1.4% in April and 1.8% in March. According to PSA, the primary driver of the slowdown was housing, water, electricity, and gas, which registered a lower 2.3% inflation rate. Rice inflation, which has been in negative territory since January, deepened further to negative 12.8%. The average prices of rice now settle at the 43 to 60 peso range. Authorities say this trend is likely to continue in the coming months due to lower global rice prices, tariff reductions, and ample supply. However, despite the broad cooling in inflation, certain food items registered price upticks. Meat, particularly pork, posted significant gains. Inflation for the meat basket accelerated to 7.9%. Fish, seafood, and dairy products, including eggs, also registered higher inflation rates in May. Food inflation remained stable at 0.7% nationwide. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas said the May print was well within its forecast range of 0.9 to 1.7%. The central bank noted that the inflation path is broadly manageable over the medium term, supported by softening commodity prices and weakening global demand. Although it warned of upside risks from transport fares, meat costs, and utilities, the BSP acknowledged that downside risks currently dominate. It added that the more accommodative inflation outlook opens up space for a possible shift in monetary policy, indicating a potential easing bias ahead of its June 19 policy meeting. As inflation settles at multi-year lows, all eyes are on the BSP as it closes in on its easing cycle. And those are latest updates from Quezon City. Back to you, Robert.
Thank you for that report, Sujin Kim. Meanwhile, citizens of a dozen nations are now banned from entering the U.S. Citing national security concerns, President Donald Trump signed a proclamation banning the entry of nationals from 12 countries, including Afghanistan, Myanmar, Iran, and Yemen. Entry of people from 7 other countries, including Burundi, Cuba, and Venezuela, will be partially restricted. During his first term in office, Trump announced a ban on travelers from what he calls majority Muslim nations. It was later repealed by the Biden administration. President Trump is also suspending student visas at Harvard. This is Trump's latest attack on the elite university that he says failed to present sufficient information about its foreign students. The White House tried late last month to revoke Harvard's ability to enroll foreign students, a move swiftly blocked by a federal judge. Trump has demanded that Harvard change its policies to fight what he calls anti-Semitism and discrimination on campus. The university has defied this, branding it an attack on academic freedom. The crew of a cargo ship carrying around 3,000 vehicles abandoned their vessel after it caught fire off the coast of Alaska on Wednesday. The 22 crew members of the ship, called Morning Midas, were evacuated via lifeboat and were transferred to a nearby merchant vessel in tandem with the help of the U.S. Coast Guard. The Liberian-flagged vessel left China's Yantai Port on May 26 and was on its way to Mexico. Cuban students clamor for further concession to roll back a rate hike on internet data. They argue that the decision to offer them discounted access did not go far enough. Students of at least one department at the University of Havana urges their peers to skip classes in protest of the price hike that have been rebuked in the nation.
Que estemos reclamando un derecho.
I support that we're asking for the right to give our take about this and to find alternative ways to solve the problems. Perhaps there are alternative approaches beyond a student strike. If we don't go to school, it directly affects us as well.
The Philippines and Singapore affirmed their commitment to boost ties as Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong visits Manila. The details from our Mojo, Ivy Reyes.
Renewable energy and digitalization are the agenda agreed upon by Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong and President Bongbong Marcos Jr. during the former's official visit to the Philippines.
Singapore has consistently been one of the top investors in the Philippines, and that testifies to the confidence that businesses have in your economy. Singapore companies are interested in renewable energy projects in the Philippines, including solar and wind projects. Such projects can generate economic opportunities for the Philippines while supporting the Philippines' renewable energy targets.
In August 2024, Philippines and Singapore inked a Memorandum of Understanding on carbon credits collaboration, a legally binding deal to achieve emissions targets and advance climate action. During the signing, Singapore expressed their intent to get to their zero-emission goal by 2050.
As founding members of ASEAN, both the Philippines and Singapore are steadfast in our commitment to the full and effective implementation of the ASEAN Community Vision and in strengthening regional ties. Our two nations remain resolute in upholding and advancing peace, security, and stability in the region.
President Marcos also underscored the Philippines' commitment in cooperating with Southeast Asian states on the disputed waters in the South China Sea.
In order to achieve peace and stability in the West Philippine Sea and South China Sea, I expressed how the Philippines will continue to be a committed advocate of the rules-based international order, one grounded on international law, in equity, and on justice.
Thank you.
2025 marks the 56th year of diplomatic ties between the two ASEAN member states. This is Wong's first overseas visit, a month after Singapore's parliamentary elections this year. Ivy Reyes, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Philippine shares barely moved on the fourth trading day of the week despite the easing inflation rate to 1.3% in May. The PSE index ended flat with a downward bias to close at 63.76, finishing the day as the second worst performer in Asia, alongside the ASX 200. But among sectoral indices, only financials ended in the red after a fall by more than 1%. Property, meanwhile, rose the most at more than 1%. Decliners narrowly outpaced advancers 101 to 100. Total value turnover reached 6.3 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks ended mixed, with DigiPlus rising the most at nearly 5%. China Bank, meanwhile, fell the most at more than 9%. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso is currently trading at 55.61 against the greenback, strengthening from previous close of 55.77. And that's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Robert Tan. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.